and welcome to today's episode of The Daily Blend. I am your host, AC, and we are joined in studio today by Marybeth Bohn, who is the co-founder and vice president of the Christina Bohn Foundation. How are you, Marybeth?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for being here. Now, Marybeth, can you tell us a little bit about the Christina Bohn Foundation?
Yes. The Christina Bohn Foundation is a young foundation. We just started it last November 2024. It's named in honor of our daughter, Christina, who died by suicide due to having premenstrual dysphoric disorder, commonly spoken of as PMDD.
Okay. Tell us about PMDD.
Well, it's a hormone-based mood disorder, and it's happening in a cyclical basis. So in the 2 weeks before before the period, it's called the luteal phase, and that's when the symptoms are arising. And then when their period starts or a few days into their period, they feel relief. They're back to themselves. Whatever they felt had just taken over their brain and it replaced their identity with something else is gone, and they're back to their normal selves. And so that's how somebody can discover if they have PMDD, if they track for a couple months and see that the symptoms are arising in that luteal phase.
So my question, most women would say, or the common theme is, when women have their period, they have PMS, there are all kinds of, things about it, jokes about it.
Right.
How do you know when it's different?
When it's different? Because if you are saying my PMS is lasting 2 weeks, or if people are saying to you, like your spouse or your parents, your best friend is saying, this doesn't seem like PMS. This is worse, because the person who has it is going to be experiencing perhaps rage, or they might be profoundly depressed or anxious. They could have panic attacks. They could be feeling really guilty and have a lot of shame. They might want to abruptly quit their job. They might not be able to get out of bed because they're so fatigued. It might interfere with their ability to concentrate at work or at school, meet deadlines, or take a test. It might be a school teacher is going to notice your A-student daughter has this time during the month where she keeps her head down and is practically falling asleep on her desk, and she cannot take a test, but I know she's getting good grades the rest of the month. And so when other people are observing, or you're noticing, but your doctor is saying exactly what you're saying, that, we women, we just have a hard time and it's just PMS. No, it is so much more than PMS. So when I give presentations about PMDD, I have an illustration of a wave, like the wave that you'd ride a boogie board on. And it's going to last for a woman. That's kind of like PMS. Maybe it'll last a few days, but you can take something over the counter and carry on with your life. But for PMDD, it is more like a huge competition wave that you'd see in Hawaii. It's just huge, but you've got to be prepared to ride it for a couple weeks. And so those who do have PMDD call those weeks their hell weeks, and they'll prepare for them. They might try to get ahead of their work, or they might want to prepare meals and try to catch up on stuff that they need to get done at home, because then they might be too fatigued or out of sorts to be able to carry on in a normal way. They might also self-isolate. So you might have a best friend who cancels on you all the time, or who isn't responding to your texts.
Okay. And so for your daughter, we talked a little bit before we started to film, and you said that she came to stay with you for a while before she passed. And were you able to notice?
Well, no. At first, when she arrived at our home, she had just received an extreme treatment for yet another misdiagnosis. She had been seeking help for 11 years. Now, I want to preface this. She was a thoracic ICU nurse and a valedictorian when she graduated from her university school of nursing. So she was a very bright person, but she had not been taught about PMDD. She did not know there was something worse than PMS. So she would tell me her PMS was lasting 2 weeks. I didn't know what that meant. I thought she had more cravings or something, but I had no clue what she was talking about. To my regret, neither of us Googled it, and I think it was in our defense. We just didn't think there was anything more than PMS. But so here she was coming home to recover for 2.5 weeks from having electroconvulsive therapy for yet another misdiagnosis. And instead of getting better, she got worse right before our eyes. And so then we went for 9 months seeing her go in and out of symptoms But we weren't seeing her menstruate because she was back in the hospital, because by this point, suicidal thoughts had turned to suicide attempts, and she was now experiencing psychosis, which we would later learn was menstrual psychosis. So it wasn't until 9 months later that I figured it out one night, and she was back in the hospital. So I spoke to her psychiatrist. I was able to make a grid showing her admission dates, and she would always update her phone app when she got out of the hospital, because you can't have your cell phone in the behavioral health unit. I would hand her the phone in the car, and she would update that app immediately. But see, she was always in distress when she was admitted, so she didn't know that admission date. But once it was on paper, it was obvious. So here she'd spent over 100 days cumulatively. What we realized then is that no one was asking her about her menstrual cycle, and no one was charting when she asked for menstrual supplies. Since she died, the American Psychological Association has declared the menstrual cycle the 5th vital sign. So when a woman is in distress and is feeling suicidal, or is attempted, or is in psychosis, she's in the ER for some reason, it is important to ask about the menstrual cycle regardless. When was your last period? When are you expecting your next period? And then pause. Let them talk. And Christina said, those were her questions that she gave to me. She said those would have helped her. And she said, no matter what state I was in, if somebody asked me, what is PMS like for you? She said, I could have easily said, it's lasting 2 weeks. And then she said, let me speak. Let me tell you what I'm experiencing. And then they might say, did you know that there's something worse than PMS called PMDD? So those questions are only as good as the person asking the question, because that doctor and that nurse in the ER need to know. And the reason why she said the ER is because many times she started her period in the night before she saw an attending in the behavioral health unit. And for her, she went back to normal.
Well, I know that I just felt like that was very important for that story to be told. I know that you have 5K coming up in October. I know that you are still looking for sponsors. I'm going to say people should go to the ChristinaBohnFoundation.org to find out more information about this story and about your 5K. Marybeth, thank you so much for coming on to share this story.
Thank you very much.